The Silk Road, A Journey Through Time Part 2, The Golden Age of Exchange. The caravans that traverse these ancient routes move at the pace of the animals that carried them, primarily the Bactrian camel, that remarkable two-hump beast that became the ship of the desert. These camels could carry loads of up to 500 pounds and travel up to 30 miles in a single day without water. Their thick, shaggy coats protected them from temperatures that could swing 60 degrees between day and night in the desert. Without the Bactrian camel's extraordinary adaptations, the Silk Road trade would have been impossible. Merchants learned to read the behavior of their camels, trusting these animals to sense underground water sources and approaching sandstorms long before human eyes could detect them. The caravans themselves were impressive undertakings. A typical merchant caravan might consist of anywhere from 500 to 1,000 camels, traveling in long trains that stretched across the horizon. These journeys required immense planning and resources. Merchants had to coordinate rest stops at caravanserais, fortified roadside and spaced roughly every 20 to 30 miles along the major routes. These caravanserais were far more than simple rest stops. They were complete ecosystems unto themselves, offering stables for animals, storage for goods, sleeping quarters for travelers, and often included mosques, bathhouses, and even small markets. The remains of these structures still the landscape from Turkey to China, silent testaments to the infrastructure that supported global trade over a millennium ago. But the Silk Road carried darker cargo as well. The 6th century CE brought one of history's most devastating pandemics along these same trade routes. The plague of Justinian, which swept from China through Central Asia and into the Byzantine Empire. This bubonic plague, the same disease that would later ravage medieval Europe as the Black Death, killed an estimated 25 to 50 million people, roughly half the population of the Byzantine Empire. The very connectivity that made the Silk Road so economically vital also created corridors for disease to spread with unprecedented speed and reach. Yet trade continued, and the 7th and 8th centuries brought what many historians consider the golden age of the Silk Road. This flourishing coincided with the Tang Dynasty in China, often regarded as the pinnacle of Chinese civilization. The Tang capital of Chang'an grew to become the world's largest city, with a population exceeding 1 million people. Perhaps 100,000 of those residents were foreigners, merchants, diplomats, students, and monks from across Asia and beyond. The cosmopolitan streets of Chang'an featured Persian restaurants, Central Asian dancers performing in the entertainment districts, and markets where you could purchase goods from as far away as East Africa. During this Tang Golden Age, papermaking technology began its westward journey from China. First developed during the Han Dynasty, papermaking had been another closely guarded Chinese secret. But in 751 CE, at the Battle of Talas in present-day Kazakhstan, Arab forces defeated a Chinese army and captured several Chinese papermakers among the prisoners. These craftsmen were taken to Samarkand, where they shared their knowledge. From there, papermaking spread throughout the Islamic world and eventually reached Europe by the 12th century. This single technology transfer would revolutionize record-keeping, literature, and learning across the globe, perhaps the Silk Road's most consequential exchange of all. The Islamic Golden Age, spanning roughly from the 8th to the 14th centuries, owes much to Silk Road exchange. As Arab and Persian merchants traveled these routes, they collected knowledge as eagerly as they collected goods. Mathematical concept from India, including the revolutionary idea of zero, traveled westward. Chinese innovations in medicine, astronomy, and engineering flowed to the Middle East. In turn, Islamic scholars made their own groundbreaking advances in algebra, optics, chemistry, and geography. The great libraries and houses of wisdom in Baghdad, Damascus, and Cordoba became repositories of knowledge gathered from 3 continents, all connected by these ancient trade routes. The Silk Road also facilitated one of history's most remarkable periods of religious tolerance and exchange. In the bustling markets of Central Asian cities, you might encounter Buddhist monks from China, Nestorian Christian merchants from Persia, Jewish traders from Mesopotamia, Zoroastrian pilgrims from Iran, and Muslim scholars from Arabia, all conducting business side by side. The city of Merv, in present-day Turkmenistan, exemplified this diversity. By the 12th century, Merv had become one of the world's largest cities, with a population perhaps 200,000 people. Its libraries were said to rival those of Baghdad, and its streets hosted adherents of at least a dozen different faiths. Archaeological evidence shows that neighborhoods of different religious communities coexisted peacefully. Their temples and places of worship stand within sight of one another. Among the most precious commodities that traveled westward were spices from South and Southeast Asia. Black pepper, cinnamon, cloves, and nutmeg commanded prices that seem almost absurd to modern sensibilities. These spices weren't merely culinary luxuries. They were used in medicine, religious ceremonies, and as preservatives. A pound of saffron could be worth more than a horse. Entire fortunes were built on the spice trade, and the markup from source to final destination could be 1,000% or more. Indian and Arab merchants controlled much of this trade, shipping spices by sea to Persian Gulf ports, where they joined the overland caravans heading west. The European appetite for these exotic flavors would eventually drive the age of exploration, as nations sought to bypass the Silk Road middlemen entirely. As the centuries unfolded, the routes adapted and shifted like living things. Political upheavals would close certain paths while opening others. Dynasties rose and fell. Cities flourished and were abandoned to the desert sands. Yet the essential pulse of the Silk Road, that flow of goods and ideas between East and West, continued to beat, connecting distant peoples in an intricate web of exchange that grew more complex with each passing generation.